No, Jesus did not have biological brothers and sisters. One day during my childhood, I attended daily Mass with my mother. During the Gospel reading, the priest proclaimed a passage from the Gospel of St. Matthew. As I listened, I heard the evangelist describe the reaction of the people of Jesus' hometown when he taught them and performed miracles in their presence. "Is this not the carpenter's son?" they asked. "Isn't his mother's name Mary, and aren't his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas?" I thought to myself, wait a minute, did he just say Jesus' brothers? As a Catholic, my family had always taught me that Mary was a perpetual virgin, a virgin before and after her marriage to Joseph, and had no other children other than our Lord. Naturally, then, I was shocked. The gospel itself seemed to contradict what the Catholic Church had led me to believe. This sent my mind spinning. Does the Bible contradict Catholic teaching? Did Jesus really have biological brothers? Well, years later, I found my answer. As I studied more deeply, I was directed to a passage later in the same gospel, toward the end when Jesus had just been crucified. Matthew names the women who stood by Jesus at the cross. He lists Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. The mention of these two names, James and Joseph, caught me by surprise, since these were the same two men described earlier as the brothers of Jesus, where before they were labeled brothers, here we see James and Joseph not described as the brothers of Jesus at all, but instead described as the sons of another Mary. Now, if this Mary were the very mother of Jesus, wouldn't it make more sense for Matthew to identify her as such? It would simply make no sense for Matthew to identify the mother of our Lord as the mother of two minor characters in the same story. So what can we assume from this? We may reasonably assume that James and Joseph were not Jesus' blood brothers, at least not in the way our contemporary use of the word would imply, but were instead of some other familial relation. It is far more reasonable to assume that the New Testament word for brothers, adelphoi, carried a much broader meaning than our current notion of strict biological kinship. And indeed, this is what the Catholic tradition has taught since long ago. That is, the so-called brothers of Jesus were more like his first cousins or second cousins. In fact, this assumption was traditionally held not only by Catholics, but also by Protestant reformers like Martin Luther and John Calvin. In fact, Calvin, who did not accept the perpetual virginity of Mary, once wrote that, under the word brethren, the Hebrews include all cousins and other relations, whatever may be the degree of affinity. In another work, Calvin wrote that certain individuals displayed excessive ignorance in concluding that Mary must have had many sons, because Christ's brothers are sometimes mentioned. Even more, in numerous places, the Greek Septuagint translation of the Old Testament and the original Greek New Testament explicitly use the term adelphoi to describe relationships between people who we know for certain did not have the same parents. Look up Genesis 13:8, 1 Chronicles 23 verses 21 through 22, and Acts 11 verse 1, just to name a few examples. Finally, the most important passage concerning the perpetual virginity of Mary comes from the infancy narratives of the Gospel of St. Luke. Here the angel announces to Mary that she will give birth to the Son of the Most High. Mary responds by saying, "Pos estai tuto epi andro ou gnosco," which literally means, "How shall this be done, because I do not know a man?" Her response is bewildering. Mary expresses shock not merely at the news that she will give birth to the Messiah, but even more so that she will give birth at all. This is strange because, simply put, a woman engaged to a man whom she will soon marry and with whom she will soon have marital relations would never, not even for a moment, wonder how she might conceive a child. If Mary was truly prepared for a normal relationship with Joseph, of course she would expect to have a child. This would be the very thing she would be preparing for. In fact, the 20th century Lutheran exegete Rudolf Bultmann once commented that Mary's question is an absurd one for a bride. So then, why is Mary surprised that she will give birth? Well, The answer is simple, and indeed it is what the Catholic Church has long thought. Mary was surprised by the announcement of the angel, since she had previously vowed to have no sexual relations with a man, not even her husband, St. Joseph. This explains her bizarre reaction. This also sheds light on the reaction of St. Joseph. And even more, this enforces the supernatural conception of our Lord Jesus Christ, fully God and fully man, who, having Mary as his mother, has only God as his Father. While there is much more that can be said in defense of the Catholic teaching on this point, from this alone we can affirm with confidence that the Scriptures indicate Mary's perpetual virginity. Brothers and sisters, keep studying. This is Brother Matthew Heinen from the Western Dominican Province.